And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at a game called Planet Unknown. Planet Unknown is a game in which you're terraforming a planet and adding stuff to it. Yeah, whatever. It's a polyomino game where you're placing Tetris-like shapes onto a planet. After spinning a lazy Susan, you're moving rovers around collecting points. Now this sounds like a lot of games that are already out there. But folks, I want to be really clear right off the bat that I really like this game. So I don't want you to go anywhere because this one feels different than many of this genre that's out there. Let me show you how. Each player gets a planet board, and you're going to put a life pod on top of the 6 different blue spaces it shows on the board. You also have a corporation. This is the Universal Corporation here. We're going to keep track of your civ, water, biomass, rover, and tech, and you have 2 rovers here ready to go. Each player has a color. You just pick a random color. And then next to this Lazy Susan, you're going to put this color at one of the sections. It doesn't matter. So maybe this section would be blue and gray is here and so on. So one person is going to be given his token here, and they're going to take the first turn, and we just keep going till the end of the game is triggered. On your turn, you're going to turn this to any section you want. Let's say, for example, I say, I would like this section here. I now will pick one of the 2 polyomino tiles that's there. So I take this one, this T-shaped one. Everyone else will also take one from the section that's in front of them. You must take one of these and put it on your planet. The first polyomino that you take is going to go anywhere on the outside of the planet. So maybe I go here. And then after that, each one simply has to be adjacent to a polyomino that you already have on the board. Now, there's a couple things when you're placing these out. First of all, if it shows an asteroid on it, you put an asteroid onto that space. Other than that, you're going to look at the symbols that are on the 2 different types of terrain. Each of these has 2 different types of terrain. So this shows a rover symbol and a tech symbol. Actually, they both show rovers and tech. There is an energy symbol, but this energy symbol either becomes the other symbol on the card, or it's one of the tiles that it's touching. So this one here could be a rover, tech, or water. And water only works if one of the water tiles is covering some ice on the board. So if I put this one here, it would work because actually both these tiles would be covering water, but I could also put it up here, for example, where one of them is covering water. These symbols matter because that's how you move up your track. So for example, this first tile I put out shows a rover and a tech. So I'd move the rover up 1, I'd move the tech up 1. The second one lets me do tech and rover. I'd move the rover up 1, the tech up 1. This one here is water, and let's say I say it's water twice, I would move the water up 2 times. Now this matters because this track is really important. On this track, there are many different spots on the track that show this little wheel here, this development. When you hit that, that automatically lets you move up another track. It could even be the same one. So if I move green up 1 here, I can move it up another spot. And then each of the tracks is going to give you bonuses. The water one has the fewest bonuses. The only thing about the water one is at the end of the game, you're going to score the highest points that each track has reached, and water can go all the way up to 10 points. Then next to water, we have civ. On different spots in the track, you'll see a little symbol here. At the beginning of the game, you're going to take civ cards equal to the number of players plus 1. So the first person to hit this will take these cards, look at them, pick one. Maybe I want this one that's worth 1 point, or this one here. Commerce agreement, which is worth 1 point, but if I have 2 of these, they're worth 3, etc. Or maybe a one-time thing. Take a tile from your depot and place it, but you don't move up for the resources. So you get to pick one of these, and they get better. In the level 4 civilization, there's going to be much better things. Like this one here simply is worth 4 medals or 4 points at the end of the game. Biomass. Several times here, you're going to land on the little biomass patch token right here. When that happens, you get one of these, and you'll place it on the board, and essentially you will be using these to help fill in different holes around the board. Rover, the first one lets you put out a rover. You put it out on the tile that you place it on. It doesn't have to go on the rover symbol. It just goes anywhere on that tile. But after that, rover's going to let you drive your rover around a certain number of spaces, so maybe 1 or 2 spaces. Rovers will run into these asteroids and pick them up, these meteorites. Sorry, I keep calling them asteroids. And this is important because you'll store them up here, where you'll get 3 points at the end of the game for each meteorite that you get. Rovers also can go get these life pods. And each life pod is going to be placed on your board here, giving you a victory point at the end of the game. You need to clear these life pods. You can put a tile on top of a life pod, but it destroys it. You can put a tile on top of a rover, but it destroys it, so not necessarily a good idea. And then finally, there is tech. As you move up the tech, you're going to get special ability. Tile adjacency placement restrictions can be ignored. Fantastic. I can store biomass patches, these, to be placed at the end of the game. Each time I get a rover movement, it's +1. Double water advancement from tile placement. And this, I'm unaffected by meteor strikes. I don't have to place meteors anymore when I place those tiles. Now, why do I care about meteors? Because the game is going to end when it's someone's turn and they can't take a tile and fit it on their board. Now, I still have plenty of space here, obviously, but you're going to be filling your board. At the end of the game, you'll notice next to the board, there are numbers that go from 1 to 3, and if you finish each row and column, you get that many points. That's a lot of points, but meteorites, if there's a meteor in a row and the row would be completely finished, that blocks it, so you need to get those done. You also get points from possibly the Civ cards that you've picked up over the time. You get points for each of these tracks, how high you are on that track. You get points from your life pods that you picked up. And at the beginning of the game, you're going to put one of these cards in between each player, neighbor objective, and you're competing with both your neighbors over something different. So let's say you're playing the game against me. Whoever has the least rover resources on our planet will get 5 points. If we tie, we both get 2 points. All this stuff is added together, and whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. Now, that's not all. There are lots of universal ones, but on the back side of each of these boards is a completely different kind of corporation. And like, for example, this one, the biomass spots move farther apart. They have different technologies on them. This one here has a flux piece that you're going to be putting on the board, and you can jump over that piece, or that flux track can move farther. This one here, which is one of my favorite ones, the Oasis, their water track moves like this, so you can get things twice, and you'll get more points for moving your water up at the end of the game. Some of them have more rovers, some of them have fewer rovers. There's a little number here that shows you how difficult that one is. And so you have all these different ones to play. Also, more than that, you can play on the other side of each of the planets, and it's a unique, different style planet, which can give you, like, this one has more ice, but also has restrictions on where you can place things. This one here has a ring. Every tile that's placed on the ring must also be anchored outside the ring. So this gives you, every planet is different, so you can play with different planets, and you can play with different corporations. There's also an event deck where you can add in basically good, bad, or terrible events and just draw one at the beginning of each player's turn. And then there's other little modules and solo play that you can add. I have the deluxe version, so keep that in mind. These tokens here look a lot cooler than the wooden tokens, although I will say that the wash on them, they did a wash on them. It's hard to maybe show here in the picture, but it just looks like someone dipped them in wash and they look kind of dirty. They're not really that good. Here's the thing, I like a lot of the stuff of this game. I think the tiles look great, and this Lazy Susan is fantastic. It has little spots here for you to reach in and pull out tiles. There's a couple times where it was hard to pull them out, but for the most part it works really well. The boards are a little thinner than I would like, but I'll tell you what, everything doesn't fit in the box. It's a little weird to me. They use game trays for these trays, but I don't even know what's supposed to go where, really. Like, these are clearly made for cards, and I have, you know, am I supposed to put them in here? Where do I put all the pieces? It just was a little confusing on that regard. And most egregious, there was a plastic thing in the bottom of the box. I took it out because the lid wasn't closing flush with the box. And even with it out, and with me being as careful as possible, everything does not fit in perfectly into the box. So that's kind of disappointing, I found. However, that being said, I still think the production is pretty cool. We got dual layer boards. There's all these different planets. There are so many different planets. They give you plenty of score sheets with the game. The rule book is a mixed bag. On one hand, it's pretty easy to learn the rules of the game, but for some reason in the back here they have all the different corporations, but they give you the tech here and then they literally just repeat it here. No, I need some explanation on the text. I need you to go through. They have a few clarifications down here, but they should have. It just is not very useful. I found there was a decent amount of questions that I had to ask in this and look things up, and they definitely don't go into detail about the planets much at all, the extra planets. I just feel like the rule book could have been done better. At least there's a very nice scoring example where they show you a finished planet and how everything works, and I like that. I just think that the rule book could have used a once over. So, I mean, it's pretty good. It's not. I think this is this company's first project, so I'm giving them some more slack on it, and it does look really good. And again, the Lazy Susan forgives a lot of sins because that's a really useful device. So even with a slightly wonky rulebook and a few problems I have with the components, I love this game. Man, it hits me right exactly where I'm at. I've played this many times. I've played either as or against every corporation in the game. I played with most of the planets. This game, now here's the one thing I haven't done. I haven't played this with 6 yet. I feel like 6 might be too crowded around a table. I get that this game will do that. And I feel like a 6-player game will be somewhat shorter because the game ends 2 ways. If someone can't put a piece in their planet, which is the way it's always ended for me, or if someone can't take a piece out of a well, like all the pieces of that type are gone. I'm assuming that can happen, but that's likely going to happen more with 6 players. I love you play every turn of this game. Someone spins the wheel, that person gets to decide, then you get stuck with 2 pieces. And you're like, okay, which of these pieces I want, where do I put it on my planet? Then when it's your turn, you get to pick the piece you want. So you always, 1 out of so many turns, get to pick a piece. And I also think it's probably better with fewer players because you get to pick more often. But when you pick these pieces, the Tetris thing is almost secondary because you're moving up these tracks. And which track do you want to move up? Would you rather move up the rovers, to start moving your rovers around to pick up those meteorites and the life pods? I mean, there's one faction, one corporation, that when you pick up a life pod, you use it to turn on your technologies instead of getting a point. That's really cool. That might be my favorite corporation. Although there's one that has like 5 rovers, and you get to drive a bunch of rovers around, but you don't, when you run into a meteorite, it doesn't go away. You actually have to take it back to a spot. But you have 5 of them. You get tons more movement than everybody else. They did a really good job at making each of these corporations feel very different, and you can play the base corporation against these upgraded different corporations, and it feels like it still works. The planets are more of a mixed bag. I'm pretty happy with the base planet. All the different planets, they add different things, and I don't like the event cards, but you don't need to play with them, so I just cut them out. Man, moving up the tracks is just so much fun. You have to decide which tracks you're going to move up, like I said, and they're all good. Now, when you play with the corporations, it might point you towards one, like if you're running the one that has that funky water track, you probably want to run up water, but you're also thinking of another track that you want to move up. Maybe water's my main track, but I also am going to move up the rovers. Or I'm going to move up the other one that gives me those little biomass patches. The game plays very quickly, 45 minutes to an hour. Every turn seems very satisfying, which, by the way, is one of the reasons I don't like the events, because most of the events, the negative events, just say, take one of your tracks down 1. Pick a track and move it down 2. Well, that's not satisfying. That's not fun. No one likes that. So I played with the events one time, and I was like, nah, let's just play without them. Man, though, this game just has so much going on, and yet I can teach it very quickly. And then the different kinds of objectives between you and your opponents. So maybe we're trying to have the most biomass, the one big section of it on our planet. Or maybe we're trying to have the most different water spots. So that adds a little bit to the game too. Man, this game is just one of those simple games. I'll tell you right now, straight up, it's one of my favorite polyomino games I've ever played. I'm hesitant to call it my favorite, but right now, if you ask me which one do you want to play, this is the one. The Lazy Susan certainly helps because spinning the board, And it's actually Lazy Susan, S-U-S-A-N, which stands for something. I wonder why they called it a Lazy Susan. You know, it doesn't matter. I think this is fantastic. I think people are going to really enjoy it. Everyone I've taught it to has had a good time. It's simple, it's fun. It is one of the best games I've played this year. I want to keep doing it over and over again, and I'm really looking forward to see what this company does next. So that's Planet Unknown. Check it out. I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. Dice Tower Judgment, excellent!